The Taliban has warned that any insurgency against its rule will be hit hard. Top U.S. diplomat Antony Blinken is heading to Qatar to handle the aftermath of the U.S. withdrawal. Let's stay on that topic, and for a closer look, Abdul Basit from the Rajaratnam School of International Studies joins us live. Mr. Basit, what does Antony Blinken hope to achieve, can achieve during these talks in Qatar?
So these interactions are related to the post-withdrawal scenario in Afghanistan and how America will approach the situation in Afghanistan. I think the foremost on the agenda will be the humanitarian crisis and how that could be averted. The other aspect of this engagement will be continue, talking to the Taliban and the Qatari authorities so that the formation of the government in Afghanistan remains inclusive. Other political ethnic factions are given a representation in the Taliban-formed government, as well as the rights of minorities and women, their right to education, their right to work. And I think the third agenda of his visit will be the counterterrorism and the threat of transnational terrorism in Afghanistan, particularly that of the Islamic State of Khorasan and Al-Qaeda. So not only that America has been in talks with the Taliban to remind them of their counterterrorism commitments under the Doha Agreement, but they have been talking to regional countries like Qatar, Central Asian republics, as well as Pakistan to maintain over the horizon counterterrorism capability. So I think these three agenda items will be on Antony Blinken's trip to Qatar.
Mr. Basit, the United States has said that it is monitoring the Taliban's activities. So why won't Mr. Blinken specifically engage with Taliban leaders while he's in Doha?
So you see, these Western countries and America are in no hurry to recognize the Taliban government. At the same time, they had to vacate, they had to leave Afghanistan. So the engagement has to continue to make sure that there is a working relationship, and that working relationship will help them maintain some vigilance over these groups until Taliban takes some concrete steps, visible concrete steps in curtailing these groups which are now in Afghanistan. Because if all forms of communication are cut, then, we will not know that, what these groups are doing in Afghanistan. It will become a blind spot. So the interaction has to continue to have a working relationship and work with the Taliban, to push the Taliban and through Taliban, these groups, so that their activities are curtailed and they do not particularly Al-Qaeda doesn't reconstitute its infrastructure once again in Afghanistan, because the withdrawal environment gives them more permission and more space and more freedom to move around, meet their like-minded groups and jihadists, and then, try to reconstitute their infrastructure, which was destroyed as a result of the 20 years of war on terror. So to ensure that all of this doesn't happen, and 20 years of development and 20 years of advancement that has been there in Afghanistan, it is preserved. For that, I think the interaction has to be, is a key, and it has to continue.
Yeah, and in that spirit, the U.S. Defense Chief Lloyd Austin also heading to the Middle East. Is this Biden administration attempt in damage control sufficient, and what challenges lie ahead?
So I think, that's one part of these visits, because American allies have their own reservation vis-a-vis the guarantees that America has given. So how much those guarantees are credible given the manner in which the U.S. has withdrawn from Afghanistan. So we saw Kamala Harris was visiting Southeast Asia. She was here in Singapore. Then other office holders of the Biden administration are now visiting different parts of the world. So one part of it is to reassure their allies that they are still there with them. And the other part of these visits, the agenda will be to continue discussions with them on how to handle Afghanistan. Because while they would like to, keep curbs on Afghanistan, at the same time, they would not like to push the Taliban-led Afghanistan go in a direction where they are so much isolated that, they once again go back to the pre-9/11 days of allowing Al-Qaeda to mushroom and other jihadists from different parts of the world to once again come and make Afghanistan as their safe haven. So there has to be that carrot and stick approach. And for that to evolve, they will have to, discuss the strategy with different partner countries, whether they are in the Middle East, in South Asia, Central Asia, in Europe, in different parts of the world. So there has to be this stick and carrot approach. International community and the US still has a lot of leverage vis-a-vis the recognition of the Taliban, removing their names from the terror designated list, as well as the reserves of the Afghanistan central bank, which have been frozen in the US. So all of it, the assistance from World Bank as well as the International Monetary Fund, all these leverages are there with the US. So they will be discussing to how to use these leverages to moderate Taliban's behavior. And I think over the period of time, I think gradually, if the Taliban act responsibly, they fulfill their commitments, they can avail all these facilities, whether it is the financial assistance or the recognition. But if not, then not only they will further tighten the curbs, but they will also keep an eye on what these groups are doing and maintain their over-the-horizon counterterrorism capabilities, which mean drone attacks, in other words, to make sure that these groups do not reconstitute beyond a level where they can threaten the U.S. homeland security once again.
All right. Our thanks to Abdul Basit. He is from the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at NTU.